So you're cleaning up the data and now refining the AI to be able to learn from this data that you just cleaned up.
How do you work together? That is the CTO and you as the senior engineer.
Triply is a travel tech startup.
So tell us about your first role.
Before I finished high school, we got to have a new principal, school principal.
Yeah.
And he came from Mangu. It's called Mr. Oloch. Big credits to Mr. Oloch if you're watching this. He got to introduce me to one of his best performers, who at the time I believe was the best in the country in KCSE, and got to go study in Harvard University in the States. And so, being one of his favorite students, of course, he introduced me to him, and we got to become really good friends. And it's through that friendship that immediately after high school, I was able to go and actually see what exactly he's working on. And turns out he was working on a very big company. Well, right now it's very big, but at the time it was now in the early stages of it, called.
Hi guys, karibuni to another episode of Aso Yangu Show, why Spotlight African Entrepreneurs. Na leo we have a senior engineer. He works at a company here in Nairobi called Triply. Karibu sana to the show, Brian.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Hi guys, my name is Brian. I'm the senior engineer here at Triply, and I'm glad to be here.
How are you, man? How has your week been?
My week has been quite busy, but yeah, I'm thankful.
So on a day-to-day, how is your work like?
So my day starts with stand-up. So it's a Slack stand-up. It's called Stand Up and Prosper.
Yeah.
Basically, where we draft out what we did yesterday, we plan out what we're going to do today, and we're able to iron out like any challenges we're having. And so basically it involves filling that in and then reviewing my team's stand-up.
Yeah.
From there now it goes to any possible meetings that we have. So maybe a meeting with the product team, the product manager, the CTO, then meet up with the engineers and follow up with them and see any blockers that they have. Then from there, now become an engineer and develop software.
So as a senior engineer, how can you describe that is this company, that is Triply? How can you describe it?
Triply is a travel tech startup. We aim to become the backbone of travel in the continent of Africa. We basically bring together all elements of travel, from accommodation. We provide you with accommodation all around the country. We ticket events, and so you'll find very big events on our platform. We have packages of our own, and we also provide B2B services to the accommodation providers, event organizers, and most of all, the tour operators.
Yeah.
Yes.
Interesting. So let's go to the beginning now. That is to your childhood. So when you look at your childhood, did you think like, it's encouraged you to get into tech? Like kulikuwa na vitu, like let's say, like did your parent buy you like, computers, that is when you were a kid, or even like, Game Boy? I don't know, like people like Elon Musk say, like, we started coding when we were small. Yes. I coded my own game. So how was your childhood like? Was it like that?
Not really. So I was born in Ongata Rongai.
Yeah.
I had a pretty normal childhood for our age. Computers were really not existent back then. But I got to experience a bit of computer in school.
Yeah.
But the only things we were doing with them was just play games. So even during the computer class, we just sneak off and just play those like high pixelated games.
Yeah.
But they were really fun back then.
In terms of parents, did they like, push you or encourage you to get into this career as a developer?
So not directly. I would say they pushed me to be the best that I could be. And so every time they ensured that I had the best grades. Every time they ensured that, I wasn't slacking off. And so I would say through that's what has been able to build that character in order to actually transition into becoming a software engineer.
Interesting.
Yes.
So what about, let's say, like your finances, especially as a kid? Was it like, did you guys have like, let's say like enough or more, or did your situation that is financially affect these decisions that you made?
So I'd say I grew up in a moderately middle income household. We weren't rich, but we're able to live by. But one thing I thank my mom for is that she ensured that I went to the best of schools. And I think it's through that I was now able to be exposed to various elements that maybe brought me to who I am today. Yes.
So how was your school, like especially the lower school? How was your performance?
So my performance was actually good. At the time, we weren't really so keen on who's having the best of grades. But still, my performance was actually really good. I was becoming top 5 in the class most of the time.
Top 5?
Yes.
So, and in terms of leadership, did you take any leadership role, especially that is in the beginning of that is lower school?
Yes. Actually, throughout my entire academic history, I've taken up leadership roles. So I've been a prefect ever since, actually since preschool. Yeah. As far back as I can remember, I've always been appointed to do either one thing or another.
So how did you balance that is both of them? That is your school life, that is your performance in terms of grades, and now the leadership part.
So I think it was intuitive for me. For most of the time, I just could have time for leadership roles. So do those exact things. They're not really as demanding. And then for my main job now, just go study, be a normal student. Yeah. So at the time, it wasn't really more of a burden or responsibility. It was just doing something extra.
So what pushed you, or what drove you to take up leadership roles, especially at that younger age, that is in lower school?
Yeah. I won't really say I had any big motivations. I was just asked and called to do a job, and I did it. So it wasn't really because I was really close to the teachers, and so by them asking for more responsibility from me, I took it quite well, and yeah, I stood up to the task.
So other than, let's say, like that is school, the leadership role, did you have any hobbies, that is, when you're growing up? And what kind of friends did you make?
Oh, interesting. Back then, I think the biggest hobbies were traveling.
Traveling?
Yes.
Okay.
So going anywhere. I've not been before was just exciting. And I think also swimming. Because back then, swimming pools are limited.
Yeah.
So it was really fun to actually just go learn how to swim. I actually remember there's this swimming pool in the now Multimedia University. That's where actually I learned how to swim myself. And so we used to pay, I believe, 100 shillings and just go there, have fun. It's a whole clubhouse. You go there, sometimes we sneak in for free because we were really small back then. But then we all go to the shallow end and then now train ourselves and now build up that knowledge until we are brave enough to go to the deep end.
Yeah, interesting.
Yes.
Interesting. So the traveling part, I know, like, getting an opportunity as a young kid, like, to travel different parts. So I don't know which part you traveled, but did that affect you, like, how you view the world, especially, like, the career side, like, unaweza fika mahali yone, people do something different and you be motivated, like, to pursue that. So how did traveling affect your personal life and also your career life?
I would say traveling exposed me to the country. So I traveled to, at the time, different places around the country, like Mombasa, Nakuru, Meru, the western side, and so even Namanga and some parts of Tanzania. But all this just exposed me to cosmopolitan life, where there are different cultures within our country. And I got to experience various ways of living and not just what I was used to in our small town in Rongai.
Yeah.
Yes.
Interesting. So in terms of school, so how was your performance at that is class 8, that is in lower school?
In class 8, I believe I got 392.
392
Yes, out of 500.
out of 500.
Yes.
Was it like let's say like a private school, or was it just a public school?
No. For my primary school, I finished it off in a public boarding school in Meru.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or public boarding school?
Yes.
Oh, interesting. So why did you go to public, that is boarding school, ukiwa mdogo?
Yeah, that's a mistake I regret
Why
until
is that?
date because in the school I was before, a lot of kids were now transitioning to boarding school. Those are around class 4 there. You could hear next term sitakuwa and end up boarding. And so this was, I would say, peer pressure. So I went home and complained and said I want to go to boarding school, not really knowing what exactly that entailed. And as I say, kiliniramba.
Mbona kilikuramba?
Because boarding school, especially a public boarding school, is a very different lifestyle compared to what I was used to. I was used to waking up in the morning, having breakfast at home, going to school, having good lunch, playing maybe in the afternoon, and then going back home and maybe watching cartoons and just relaxing at home. But now I go to this sort of foreign place that's completely new culture.
Yeah.
With a whole new set of rules. You wake up at this time, you dress this way, this is the only food you get to eat. Yeah, it was really...
you felt that is limited.
Yeah, definitely. Like, I believe every person who's been to a boarding school has felt some sense of culture shock. Because now you're eating rice and meat maybe a couple of times a week. Now you only see that maybe during visiting day only.
Yeah, I know the experience. So that is after lower school, that is you got into high school.
Yes.
What inspired you that is to pursue a career in tech? Was it during high school or before high school, or when did it happen?
So during high school, I had a good batch of friends. So I went to 2 high schools. But the high school I spent most of my time in, where I finished, it was a really small community.
Yeah.
And we were sort of like a nerd group, a group of nerds who used to share ideas, learn off of each other, sort of compete very aggressively.
Which school was this?
This is Ongata Senior School.
Ongata Senior School. Is
Yes.
it a national school or
No, it's a private school.
it's a private school?
Yes. So I believe the first 4 positions in the class were hotcakes. They were very competitive.
So you are among those
yes,
positions?
Yes, yeah. And so, it was a fight for the first 4. But in between these 4 people, we usually made good friends. We were very good friends with them. And we used to share a lot of ideas. And for the guys in that category who were doing computer, we used to exchange computer ideas. And so I remember there was a time I went back home and learned Morse code. And I had this notebook of mine where I used to write both things I learned, and also had a long list of things that I would love to invent. Yeah, and so I learned Morse code over the holiday and came back and sort of presented it even to the computer teacher. But at the time, I wasn't taking computer. And so through that now it started the conversation, and we were able now to exchange way more ideas. And I got to learn a lot from that.
Interesting.
Yes.
So when did you come across that? During that period, did you come across that is any programming language, that is coding?
Not really. I got to understand the basics of building software. I got to see like they're actually programming languages. Got to understand what a programming language is. I think one question that dwelled in my mind for quite a long time was what's a line of code? Like, what does that define? Yeah, but I believe I got the answer to that quite soon after. But it was It was more or less just learning the basics, not really going in depth. Yeah.
Okay. So in terms of like, let's say, can you say that is you learned discipline that is in high school? And when I mean discipline is like, being dedicated at working on something, focusing, committing until it's done. Did you learn any of that is in your high school life?
Yes. Credits to the school, actually. I really attribute a lot of who I am today to that school because it's through that school that if you really want to be successful, they will give you the guidelines and the skills required to be successful. And so I had teachers around me. I had even the school's management mentoring me. And so through both what I could verbally get from the teachers and the staff and the directors, I could also see how the director was running the school and how the kind of discipline that she had in managing such a big organization, because Ongata Academy is a very big school. So it's at this point now a group of schools because it has other branches now in Narok and different other places. But you could see the dedication that, sometimes we think that once you have money, you can now relax and go and retire somewhere. But you could see this lady wake up at like 3 or 4 a.m. and come and inspect the classes, come and inspect the dorms, come and just look around the offices and be with you when you're taking breakfast and she's already in the office and she goes to sleep way late in the evening. Yeah, and so I believe that's what made me to fully understand what's the kind of discipline that's required to achieve that level of success. Yes.
Interesting. So I feel like your parents really like invested in giving you the best education. How was your parents' education background like?
Well, for my mom, I believe she went to college.
Yeah.
But for my dad, he went to university, he went to Egerton.
Yeah.
Yes.
So did they pursue any career, let's say, related to tech, or what was your...
No. So my mom did more of office work, so like civil servant. My dad pursued business.
business?
Yes.
And let's say like among them, both of them, who can you say like really like pushed you that is in school?
That would be my mom.
Your mom? Eh?
Yes.
Kudos to your mom.
Yeah. She ensured that homework was done.
Yeah.
She ensured that my grades were still on top. Yeah.
So talking about the grades, let's say, did you do all the sciences? And how was your performance with subjects like maths?
So yes, I did do, my combination was 3 science, history and business. My performance in the sciences was really good. I believe in math I got an A in KCSE. For physics, chemistry and biology, I believe I got an A minus.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah.
Oh, interesting. So ukiwa, that is in high school, which course or which career did you plan to pursue? Was it tech or was it something different?
So with high school, it's a time when you get to experience different things. And so this term I will come to school and think about medicine and think what would life look like as a doctor? And now do some research on doctors, because the school had internet and it had a library and you could just go and do your research. And so just look at doctors, watch videos of doctors, there's this day in the life of a doctor. And now ask myself, is this really what I want? Then the next time I come as an engineer and I say, I want to be a civil engineer. Let's look at how that life looks like. Yeah, but slowly by slowly, I started gravitating towards technology and more or less technology business. So building businesses anchored on technology.
Yeah.
Yes. So that's basically what really hit me hard and inspired me quite the most
Yeah.
out of all those careers. Yes.
So let me ask something else. Can you say you are a bookwormer or a gamer, that is in high school?
I had a very interesting high school life. So in the group of 4 that I was talking about, there was one person we all couldn't beat. And now
Or
he
there was
the
one person
bookwormer.
you could never beat?
Yes.
Or the
I
first
believe
position?
we got to beat him like once, but he got his position again. And
I think
yeah.
in every school, there was that guy. There was that guy who you'd never
Exactly.
beat.
Definitely.
Yeah.
But he was a bookwormer. So he was always in class, always when you go to the dorm, he's in his own, he's in the study rooms just studying. He's always with books. Yeah. He's meditating on books. But for me, I think I wanted to prove him wrong. So I freestyled through a lot of it in the sense that I could go without like actively reading, like doing that whole wake up at 3 a.m. and start reading, sleep at 12. Yeah, for me, I believe, and that like my system was that first of all, attend class,
Yeah.
listen to the teacher, interact with the teacher, and through that, like I was able to grasp everything. Yeah, and maybe I just needed a bit of reminder here and there. But I think one very good example of this is my history teacher. So I believe I had a beef with my history teacher because he was very vocal about the importance of writing notes. But for me, like I felt that notes were not really important, especially for history, because I felt like I'm just repeating the book. It's like I'm writing a whole new book. But how I got to prove my point was during like when he's bringing the exams, like after they've been marked. So he first comes and then says, you people, you're not writing notes, so that's why you're failing. And then to his surprise, the first paper that he gives out of the highest performer is me. And I have like 90 or 96. And the next person behind me has like 60. And so it was really hard for him to push that agenda when I'm around because I always disproved him. But I think on my end, I still believe that learning is not really conventional. Like there's no one straight way of learning.
Yeah.
One person may learn through writing, someone else may learn just through hearing, another person may learn through practicing. Yeah, and so yeah, I believe we should actually change our entire system to cater for all these people.
Yeah.
Yes.
For sure, for sure. So let's say after high school, first, what was your performance like that is in high school? And what did you do that is after high school? How was your, before that is you got into campus, how was your life like that is that period?
Okay, so maybe just to mention something. Before I finished high school, we got to have a new principal, school principal.
Yeah.
And he came from Mangu. It's called Mr. Oloch. Big credits to Mr. Oloch if you're watching this. He got to introduce me to one of his best performers, who at the time I believe was the best in the country in KCSE, and got to go study in Harvard University in the States. And so being one of his favorite students, of course, he introduced me to him, and we got to become really good friends. And it's through that friendship that immediately after high school, I was able to go and actually see what exactly he's working on. And turns out he was working on a very big company. Well, right now it's very big, but at the time it was now in the early stages of it, called Zeraki.
Okay.
Yes, and I got to join him as an intern, and it's through there now that I sort of started my professional career.
The first day really didn't feel like a first day because it was more just interacting with the team, getting to learn what everybody does. I didn't even know myself I was working. Yeah. It's just learning, brainstorming new ideas, like just crafting out new ways of marketing, new ways of just spreading out the knowledge about the product because the product was quite new back then. Yeah. So that ideally was the first day.
And so maybe there are some people who don't know what Zeraki is. And so what does Zeraki do?
Okay, so Zeraki is an edtech platform. Currently, there's a branch of Zeraki called Zeraki Analytics, of which, if you ask any high schooler right now, most likely they know Zeraki Analytics. Because once they do the exams, and the exams are marked, the results are sent directly to the parents. And Zeraki is a system that handles all of that. Yes. There's also a branch of Zeraki that does content for high school, the high school curriculum. So video content. So you can just go to Zeraki, sign up, and learn from Form 1 to Form 4. And there are quizzes there are questions. Yeah, so ideally you can just go through the entire system and prepare for your exams.
But then there's something I've noted about edtech companies.
Yes.
They are quite doing well. That is in Africa compared to other startups.
Yes.
Like fintech, especially the East African side. Why do you think that is so?
So I would say probably because Africa is the youngest continent. And by being the youngest continent, software like education and companies that revolutionize education are very important right now and going forward. Because being the youngest population, you find that majority of the population is under the age of 20. And so these are people who are still learning, and the old systems of learning cannot work with this generation. Yes.
That's an interesting point of view. So when you got into Zeraki, what was your first work did you do, or did you maybe deal with code at any point, or when did you start dealing with code or programming?
So at Zeraki, this was straight after high school. And so Zeraki was just a learning base. So I mostly interacted with developers and just sat with them and asked them a lot of questions. I saw how they were writing code. I also interacted with the business side of things, where I went to pitch with the software. I went to sell the software to different schools. And that was a big learning moment because it was the first time I got to wear a suit and go and sell something. At least right now, most of those schools that I went to are now closed, and they are actually part of Zeraki. Yes.
So let me ask you. So you got into the business side of things. That is when you got into this internship role. Did you feel like it was like a dilemma, where you choose either to go to the business side or the technical side of the company?
For me, I've never really felt like it's a dilemma. Because my whole inspiration is not just to be a good engineer, but to be a good tech business person. So build tech that can change the world. And so I believe that's what Zeraki was doing back then and still doing right now. And that's why, for me, it was quite easy to sell that software because it's software that I believed in. Yes.
So which programming language did you first come across that is starting out as a dev?
So starting out, at Zeraki, I was exposed to languages like Java. But I didn't really go deep into them. But when I actually started learning, I started learning with the web technologies. So I started with HTML, CSS, and now JavaScript, of which now they were quite rewarding for me because I could see what I was doing. So like I just code out a button and I see a button appear. I code out an animation and the button start bouncing.
Which language is this?
This is basically HTML and CSS
Yeah.
and JavaScript. Yeah, so it was just basic web technologies. And so this is what I started out with. Yes.
Interesting. So, did you feel like why did you choose to move ahead with Java?
So I continued with Java because, so with JavaScript, specifically JavaScript, I did JavaScript for web technologies.
Yeah.
But in school, now when I joined campus,
Yeah.
we started learning Java. And so this is now when, now, of course, you have to now learn Java.
So let's go back to your career that is at Zeraki.
Yes.
So at what point did you start focusing more on coding rather than on the pitching side?
At Zeraki, it was just a mix of both.
Yeah.
Just learning about both the business side and the development side of things.
Yeah.
And so it was more of a 50-50 role.
Yeah.
Wherever I could provide value, I provided value. Yes.
Interesting. So when you got into campus, how was your life like?
With the changes in life, sometimes it hits you quite hard. And the transition from high school to campus was very drastic. Yeah, because now I'm used to having a system.
Yeah.
You wake up at a certain time, you eat at a certain time, you go to classes at a certain time. And now you go to campus where now you make your own system.
Or you gotta do your own things.
Yes, you can choose not to go to class.
Yeah.
You can choose not to go to school. Of course, I skived a couple of classes here and there. But all in all, I got to learn the system. Yeah. And the first semester was a bit of a learning curve, just adapting to how things operate. But slowly by slowly, now I just adapted and knew what are the do's and don'ts of university. How do I achieve my objectives when I'm here? Yes.
So which campus were you in?
So I was called to, there's a story behind that actually. I was called to technical.
So before we get there, so when you finish that is your KCSE.
Yes.
Which universities, which campuses did you choose? And which courses did you choose?
Yes. So I chose computer science.
Yeah.
But
that is in all the 4 choices.
Yes. The universities I picked were, the first one was Nairobi University, because in the rankings it was the best university back then.
Yeah.
Right now it's Kenyatta University.
Yeah.
But my second choice was the Technical University of Mombasa. So honestly, maybe out of pride, I didn't really care about anything else from number 2 going down.
Yeah.
But for the second one, it was more or less, a dream I had of just going to class, leaving class in the afternoon, going and just relaxing by the beach in shorts with my laptop. If I'm tired, I just hop in the ocean. So that's a picture of what I imagine studying in Coast would look like.
Why did it happen?
So I was actually called to that school, to that university.
Yeah.
And my mom found it best in her wisdom that if this boy goes to Mombasa,
Have you told her about your dreams?
No, of course not. That would maybe make things worse.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think she knew what kind of person I was, and she knew that this would be too much fun for me, and so she found it best to just find a place for me in Kenyatta University.
How was the tech ecosystem? Like, was it supportive? Was it huge? Was it energetic?
So the tech ecosystem in Kenyatta University, I would say, is more or less student-driven. So there are a lot of student communities that are able to impact other students with more skills and sort of mentor them into the tech ecosystem. And so we had student groups, various clubs. There was a Microsoft club, the Google club, Yeah, and so these are the groups that I would say built that foundation of what does it mean to actually be a player in the tech space. Yes.
Interesting. So, which was your did you build any project that is in campus?
Yeah, there were the projects that are mandatory for class, and there are the projects that you just build out of just boredom and pure fun, pure excitement. To be honest, of course, the first one was the Hello World, the
Oh, you built
infamous.
the Hello World. Hello World.
Yes,
Yeah.
Hello World. So it's just basically displaying Hello World.
Yeah.
But you soon learn later on that that's really not a very big project. You can do that in your first 3 minutes. But yeah, you slowly by slowly now start building a bit more complicated applications. You build a website, you build different libraries. Yeah, yes.
In terms of hackathons,
Mhm.
like did you build any project for hackathons or did you involve yourself in hackathons?
Yes. There were some hackathons that were hosted in school, some that were hosted by different developer communities. But I think the most prominent hackathon that I don't think I'll forget was one that was hosted by the Kenyan government, the ICT ministry.
Yeah.
And it's called the Connected Summit.
Connected Summit. Yeah.
Yes, and they were in partnership with the Cellulant, a company called Cellulant. And so the objective of this hackathon was to hack the big four.
Yeah.
So basically, build a project that supports one of the big four agendas that was a plan set out by the then President Uhuru Kenyatta.
Yeah.
So me and a friend of mine now brainstormed and came up with a very interesting idea to support the manufacturing industry.
Yeah.
And our idea was basically to create a barter trade system within both the manufacturing industry, but all industries at large, where a small scale manufacturer who might not have a lot of cash at hand
Yeah.
to support maybe their legal side to buy new supplies, but they've already manufactured some items that maybe have not been sold yet. They would trade these items through the system, and the system would match their items with someone in need, and they would receive the services and goods that they need through that entire system. So the system may change the entire business, the entire community, to ensure that what you needed, you're able to get it, and what you're able to provide, someone else could benefit from that. Yeah, and the entire system was cashless. Yes. So, and through the hackathon, we were actually able to become the second runners up.
So you were able to build that as a working project. And
yes.
It was out there.
Yeah, we built an entire prototype and we demoed it before the panel. I believe the panel was very vast in terms of the experience. Yeah. We had the then permanent secretary for ICT and a couple of other big shots in the industry judging the entire presentation. Yeah. And so, yeah, through that now we're actually able to become the second runners-up.
So how much was the award?
The awards were, the awards were not monetary per se. They were good. So you're getting, number one, you're getting networks. So you're getting people who can actually help you build this further and actually make a real business out of it. Two, there were other goodies by companies like Pace, by J Blessing. That was actually a very big sponsor for the event. And actually, until today, I still use some of the products from that company because I was exposed to Pace products back then.
You mean a company by J Blessings?
Yes. So J Blessing, I don't believe he still has the company now, but back then had a company called Pace Soul. Oh, Pace. Pace Soul is one of their products. But Pace basically is a sound manufacturer, and he
Oh, that makes sense
produces.
by the makes
Yes.
sense. Because
Yes.
they're blessing is in music videos and
Exactly.
yeah.
Yeah. So they were producing very high quality earphones,
Yeah.
very high quality headphones, very high quality wireless AirPods.
When was this?
This was I believe around 2019.
Or 2019?
Yes. Yeah, and I became a customer actually of them from that day.
Yeah.
Yes.
Do you still have any their products that maybe in your
Yes, I up to this day have the Pace Soul. So they did
That
a
is the
collaboration.
earbuds.
Yes.
Do they still work?
Yeah.
How is the quality compared to like other?
I can compare
Products.
their sound quality with AirPods.
Nice.
They're that good.
Were they manufactured in Kenya, or did they buy the product then?
So I believe they designed them in Kenya,
Yeah.
and then outsourced the manufacturing. Yes, but the quality of the product compared to the price
Yeah.
is just phenomenal.
Yeah.
Yes.
So let's go back to your project.
Mhm.
So after the hackathon,
Yes.
did you proceed with it?
To be honest, not really.
Why is that?
I'm still in school, so
Yeah.
this was just an exciting event. I got to go to Bomas. I got to meet like high profile people, but the vision behind the product itself required a lot more work for it to actually work within the Kenyan space.
Yeah.
And so at the time, I found it best not to really pursue it further because I wasn't ready to make that level of commitment to such a project. Yes.
So so while still in campus, that is before that is graduating, did you hold that is any role, or did you build another project or another product?
So in campus, the only projects I did were maybe small scale contracts that I did here and there.
Yeah.
But at the time, I got to join the Andela Learning Community, of which was more or less like a boot camp
Yeah.
to teach you software engineering and to impact you with practical skills. And so for majority of that time, that's what I was doing.
Yeah.
On top of that, maybe other short courses like Cisco, CCNA classes.
Yeah.
I took some classes by ABM on cybersecurity and networking,
Yeah.
and a couple of other short courses. At the time also, Huawei were coming into the market, and they were targeting university students to do their courses. So I did a couple of those classes as well.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, you did a Huawei course.
Yes.
So was it like a workshop, or what were they looking at? That is when they were that is when they were educating you guys for their courses.
So it's basically, the course is a networking course.
Yeah.
So they teach you about the Huawei networking devices. So the Huawei routers, the switches, the firewalls. So the entire IT infrastructure built by Huawei.
Yeah.
So that's what they were teaching you. And I didn't get to go to advanced classes for it because the networking bit of it didn't really fascinate me as much.
Yeah.
Yes.
So the after that is going through the course and finishing, did Huawei give those who were able to finish any employment, or what was their end goal?
Yeah, actually, a couple of classmates of mine really benefited from the program.
Yeah.
I believe one of them works at Oracle.
Yeah. Oracle.
Yes.
Ah, nice.
Another one I think works at KCB. Yeah, but there are a couple of guys who actually really benefited from the program. They got employment opportunities through that. Yeah, and they advanced in that line of work.
Interesting. Do you regret missing that kind of a moment, not finishing the course, or maybe did you have different goals?
Not really, because personally, I feel like it's the most back office element of software engineering, because now you're dealing with actual cables, you're dealing with routers, you're dealing with hubs, you're dealing with switches, you're configuring, the IT guy in the office. You're the IT guy.
Or the one who does the wires.
Yes. And for me, I didn't really fathom that in my future. Because I'm still more of a person who likes to get at the intersection between business and software. And this one felt too much in the background to ever interact with the business. Yes.
Did you start a startup because most engineers are like, I want to start a startup in campus and drop out. Did you ever think of building a startup?
I actually did start a startup, and so it started off with the HALT program. There's a program called the HALT Prize, of which you pitch an idea or a product that impacts the world, and you're able to go up in ranks. So there's a campus competition, there's a national competition, there's a continental competition, and there's a global competition. And so it started off from that program in campus, but I now advanced this program now to get into an incubator. And I got into the Chandaria incubator at KU, at Kenyatta University. So at Kenyatta University, we have a business and incubation center, sponsored by Chandaria, of which they take in young startups and provide them with office space, with resources, with a network to be able to grow their business and make something out of it. And so me and a friend of mine, we, through the HALT program and now into Chandaria, we got to build a sort of big data analytics product, of which would be able to use big data analytics to influence business decisions. And we were able to really scale that up. We did a lot of market research. I remember we have some photos just going to different shops, asking different questions like how would data impact this decision? How often do you use software in your business? And it didn't really succeed because we might have underestimated the kind of resources that we would have needed to fully build out such a software. But there were a lot of learning moments from that startup.
So the ecosystem that is in KU, how was it like? Like, were people building startup, or was it a layer thing?
So a lot of people had startups, and most of their startups ended up coming to Chandaria. And that's why actually I'm still in that group. We have a whole group of people who've built startups. I have a friend of mine who's now in Europe by her startup. And
what's the name of the startup?
I can't really remember the name, but her startup dwells with agricultural goods. So it works with drones. So she uses drones to sort of irrigate and like do the agricultural processes. Yes. Yeah.
So is there any other startup that came out from that environment that we see that is in the Kenyan market?
So in the Kenyan market, I don't think they're as popular. But the people who built those startups are now in various other places. So they either advanced or built new products from that. But I believe some startups that are actually quite notable are startups like Africa Truck, which tracks motor vehicles. There is FlexPay. FlexPay actually also came from Chandaria. Yeah, I believe those are like the two biggest ones out of mind I can remember.
Interesting.
Yes.
So in terms of that is while you're still in campus, what can you say that you did different that you feel like impacted your current career at the moment?
I would say I got to try out things.
You got to try out things.
Yes. I got to join every community I could possibly join. I got to build every project I could think about.
Yeah.
I got to meet every person I had access to. And through all this now, I could be able to fully understand what does it really mean to be a software engineer. Yes.
Can you say like which is the most impactful community were you in that transformed your life?
So there was the Azure student community.
Azure.
Yes. Of which we learned about Microsoft, we learned about Azure. There's of course the Google developer student community, which until date I think is now the biggest student community in the country.
Or the GDG.
Yes.
Interesting. Were you part of the leadership or
No,
were
no.
you committed in the community?
Yes. So I was more of a member, not really a leader. Yes. But I actively participated in their meetups. Yes.
So do you feel like, let's say like a community like GDG influenced your tech career that is positively, especially at acquiring jobs, and also of course that is learning different things in the tech ecosystem?
Yes, it did. Because through GDG and at the other communities, I was able to meet up with very big players in the industry. And these players were able to mentor me, and they're able to guide me on like what do I need to actually do in order to become the best. Yes.
So tell us about your first role. Was it during campus or after campus?
So it was during campus. So I got to become a data analyst to train AI services. That so ideally what we are doing was
that is let me you are training AI services.
Yes.
Which year was this?
This was, I believe, 2019, 2018, 2019.
2018, 2019.
Yes.
So I think 2018 and 2019, AI was not such a big thing. It was more like not a lot of people knew about it.
Yes.
So how was it like, from your own?
This was about, I think 2020, 2021. Yeah.
Oh, so AI was just starting out.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So at the time now, big companies like OpenAI were not known, of course, but in the background, a lot of work was now going into training those models. So that's the kind of work that we are doing. So you're cleaning up the data and now refining the AI to be able to learn from this data that you just cleaned up. Yes.
Was it like a permanent job or was it like more like a gig?
It's more of a gig.
Yeah.
It was more of a contractual gig. Yes.
I hope like I heard like when people were training about AI, the jobs were given to Kenyans, but then they were paid that is peanuts. I hope you are not part of that team.
Well, unfortunately, I was.
How much did you make out of it, and how long did you work?
The pay wasn't a lot. I think at most I was making maybe like 30,000. But at the time I was still living at home, so at least I didn't pay rent. Food sometimes, of course. Once your parents know you're earning something, they will demand something. Now buy the food, pay the tokens, buy the gas. Yeah.
And this was
I was still having fun with the money.
This was 30,000 per month.
Yes.
Okay. So did you pursue other gigs like let's say like Fiverr, that is software engineering, or did you get any other gig that is before you got like a permanent role?
Yeah. So I used to. So I learned about the online jobs. What guys do like academic writing, transcription, all of that, and I got into it. I did some academic writing gigs. I did some transcription gigs until I realized I'm not really feeling the whole working like that. So I now moved to selling accounts. So I now used to buy accounts and then I'll sell them.
Or
Yeah.
that is Fiverr accounts.
No. Accounts like Verbit.
Yeah.
What was the other? Transcribe Me.
Yeah.
Yeah, there were a couple of online writing accounts and online gig accounts. Yeah, that I was able now to flip and make a markup.
So let me ask.
Mhm.
So in terms of like you buy an account.
Mhm.
So of course you buy it at a lower price so that you can sell it at a profit.
Yes.
So what did you do like to make sure like maybe the value of that account increases?
So there are two things. First of all, is the quality of the account. And so you have to make sure that the account, the ratings are very high, so that anyone who's picking up that account can be able to start off by getting jobs, because these jobs are assigned to people who have the highest rating. And the second thing is it was usually a seasonal business. So you find that there's a time when jobs are very high, those accounts are being sold for nearly 5 times the price. But there's a season when the jobs are not a lot, like when schools are closed and stuff like that. Because if you sell it to someone at that time, they expect tomorrow I want to make money. I want to make my money back.
Yeah.
But now at the time now, the price was dropping quite significantly. And so that was the time I was buying a couple of accounts. And then now wait, when the market now is ready and jobs are now back, I now start looking for customers and sell them.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So at the moment, that is when you're getting these gigs,
Mhm.
did you ever think of working at a company that is a triple? Or what was your plans at the moment? Which company were you was your dream company to work with?
So of course, I share this dream with a lot of software engineers.
Yeah.
I wanted to work at Google.
You wanted to work at Google.
Yeah.
You still want to work at Google?
Well, I don't think I want to say that right now, but of course, it's something I would be open to that conversation. Yeah.
So let's say like in campus, did you have any like low moment where you feel like maybe this won't work out? Did you have such moments?
Yeah, those moments come all the time.
Yeah.
When you sort of sit down and ask yourself, maybe, it's the way right now we are at the tail end of the year.
Yeah.
And you can look back and say, in January, I made a New Year resolution to start doing this or to have this by now, but it's not happened yet. So, of course, there are those moments when you question yourself, but all in all, you just stick to the resolution that it always works out. If you just keep at it, something will always give, and you'll always have a way out. Yes.
So when did you get your first that is permanent role as a software engineer?
So when I was still a data analyst, I got another job where I got to become an instructor for a bootcamp based in London. I became a software instructor, a backend software instructor, where I used to train new engineers from across the continent. I used to train them backend technologies and various ways of how to grow in the technology space. Yes. And then that was, I think, one of the first permanent roles I had. Later on, I also became a contractor. It's a sort of sister to that company because it was made by the same founder. Because I think he discovered that if you train very good engineers, you now have a pool of talent, and now you can now invite clients to now use this pool of talent to build their systems. And so I now became a contractor for that company, and now we started building products for now US-based clients. Yes.
So did you have any like any meaningful network that is from that interaction or from that gig?
Yeah. I think there are a couple of students of mine I still talk with, maybe on LinkedIn until date. But I think most of it was just a learning journey because I got to understand how do you, because the Pan African idea was now born in my mind. Because when you're interacting with the whole continent, you now have to start thinking about things like a language barrier. We say that someone from a different region in Kenya might have a strong accent. Maybe someone may have a strong Kimeru accent.
Yeah.
But you've never talked to someone from Cape Verde and tried to talk English with them.
Yeah.
So such things like that, maybe someone from Botswana, where their native language might not be English. So yeah, I got to understand how do you deal with such complications and challenges, and actually derive value from such a team. Yes.
Interesting. So before we get to working at Triple,
Mhm.
which other company that is did you work for?
So I worked at various other companies. There are a couple of others. I did some small gigs here and there, but I think immediately before I joined Triply, I was a software engineer at NCBA Group. More specifically, the digital business side of the business, where I think one of the biggest products is Loop.
You are working for Loop.
Yes.
So how was it like that is working at the engineering department of Loop, and what side were you specifically that is working on?
So at Loop, I was a full stack engineer. I did a bit of front-end development and back-end development. My experience working at Loop was interesting because I for the first time now got to understand what it means to work for a large corporate organization. And so NCBA is a very big company, and it has, I think, thousands of employees. And so you now understand both the merits and demerits of having such a big organization and how they impact building of the product and actually running of the business. Yeah.
Interesting. So which language were you guys building that is Loop with?
So for the front end, we used Vue.js, and for the back end, it was mostly Java.
Mostly Java?
Yes, with Spring Boot.
Oh, interesting. So what is one that is which experience can you say that is you got from working at Loop?
So at Loop, I just got to meet very cool people.
Yeah.
I got to make a lot of friends. Some of who we are working with on other projects even today. But Loop was just more or less a very interesting experience. Yes.
Interesting. So after Loop, so where do you head after Loop?
So after Loop, that's when I joined Triply.
Triply.
Yes.
So for Triply, how did you that is secure the job? Mm-hmm. Can you take us maybe through the process? Like, how did you know about it? How was the interview like? And then like your first day.
So at Triply, I made the application through LinkedIn. So they made an advertisement on LinkedIn, and that's where I was now able to apply. The interview process was quite smooth. I got to meet the CTO. I did a take-home assessment. And then from there now I got to meet both co-founders. Yes. So I believe it was actually really smooth.
So your first day that is, did you start out as a senior engineer, or did you that is, were you promoted to the role?
No, I joined Triply as a senior engineer.
As a senior engineer?
Yes.
So how was your first day like working here? And did you start out with the company, or did you get in when they were already starting out?
No. So I joined sometime last year, around July. At the time, they had already grown. Their team had scaled up. They had a couple of engineers in their team. But the experience was quite interesting because I was now coming from a large corporate organization to a small team of, at the time, less than 10 people.
10 people.
Yeah, but no, the dynamics of how things work, how fast change can be made, was apparent from the first day because, at Loop sometimes and at big companies, it's very hard for you to drive change very fast. But here, change was, you think about an idea, you pitch it to the team. If you're all in agreement, it's done and deployed by evening. So things moved quite fast.
Oh, things move fast.
Yes.
Interesting. In terms of day to day, not even day to day, like the team members, how are you able to work together as a team? Which engineer is working on what side? Who is working on what side? And also as a senior dev, what is your main role, or what do you do most?
So how we put it is that each engineer brings different value. We have engineers in the mobile team, we have engineers in the backend team, engineers in the front-end team. So depending on the different products that you have, we have B2C products and B2B products. So able to split the manpower that you have across the different applications that you have. But maybe when one side is a bit overloaded, we can now shift focus and have all engineers now focus on that. Yeah, so that's how we split the workload across the different engineers. But not to answer your other question, my role as a senior engineer is basically to take up the most difficult projects, but also to manage the team and ensure that our output is as we need it to be, and also that the developers' affairs are also handled. So if there is something that an engineer needs, or there's a problem or a blocker that an engineer has, I'm able to articulate that problem now to either the operations team or to the CTO, or just to the relevant person.
How do you work together? That is the CTO and you as the senior engineer. That is to build the product.
So the CTO, and the product manager have various roles with regard to coordinating the team. And so the CTO is able to coordinate the product manager to ensure that each product that you're building is well scoped out and you have all the requirements that we need. Me and the CTO are able now to sit down and think in terms of architecture and actual code, like how is this actually going to be implemented. And then now from there, now the CTO can now delegate that to me and ensure that now that is now delivered across the team. Okay. Yes.
So let's say the CTO wants a certain feature added. Then he gives you that information. So how do you delegate? Who do you give the job? In terms of who do you give the job for? Maybe for the app, for the website, the back end, the front end. How do you divide this work?
So in terms of a specific task allocation, on a day-to-day, that's the work with the product manager. So the product manager is able to now manage the sprints and ensure that the relevant tasks are now assigned to the relevant people. But my role comes in terms of how they're actually building it. Yeah. And so just to inspect and supervise and ensure that everything is now built according to the right standard. Yes.
So for the Tripri app and the website, which languages do you use for everything?
So for Tripli, for web, we mostly have a JavaScript stack. We use Nuxt.js by Vue.js on the front end. On the back end, we use Node.js. Yeah.
Interesting. So in terms of how do you collaborate with other departments? That is to make sure that is the product is as per user wants it to be. That is to improve the user experience.
Come again?
So how do you collaborate with other departments to improve the user experience of the product?
We collaborate with different departments by having a design system. So there's a system with which we are able to come up with new designs. So we have a UI UX team. We're able now to draft the designs, ideate the designs first, draft the mock-ups, and then we have an approval process for that, so that the team is now in sync with the product owners and operations team. Yes.
Interesting. So let's go about about your personal life. So if you don't mind, at the moment, what can you say is your support system? Are you a family guy, or how is it like?
When you're coming up with this episode, I thought that question may come up, but so currently I'm single. I don't really have a family. Maybe that will come up in the next few years. But my support system are basically the people who are close to me.
Yeah.
I have a couple of really close friends, guys. Some of the guys I talked about from NCBA. We are doing other projects with them. Of course, my family, my mom. I think that's basically my support system. Yes.
Are you heading that is any, let's say, like a tech community to help other builders or to help each other as builders?
So I do participate in different tech communities, but I think the one where you would find me right now would be the Vue.js Kenya community.
Or Vue.js?
Yes.
Interesting. So on a, let's say like on a daily basis, what do you do that is to make sure your skills are matching to the most current standards of tech requirements?
So in order to upskill my skills, I have to actively learn. So I need to be aware of what's happening around the entire tech ecosystem, be updated with market trends, things like AI. I need to start adapting to it, understand like what impact does it have towards engineering, and how can we use AI to fasten and improve our processes. So I always take time to learn. There are a couple of channels that I follow on YouTube. Of course, there's Twitter. There are a couple of guys who do articles on LinkedIn. Yeah, so it's just basically following the right people and then just, getting information.
Wow, interesting. So how are you able to, impact your team, that is to make sure they are up to date?
We're able to do that in two ways here at Triply. First of all, is by the tasks we allocate them. Yeah. So we focus to challenge and not really maintain the various team members in their comfort zone. So we like sort of throwing people in the deep end. Yeah. So we assign you a task that we know that you may not be fully qualified to do at the time, but we believe that you're able, through your working with that project, you're now able to upskill yourself and learn. And here at Triply, we do provide you with learning material. We do have a learning budget. So if you require any learning material or any course that you find would help you towards your specific work, we here at Triply do provide that. Yeah, and so it's through that you're now able to sort of mentor and grow the different engineers that you have on the team.
Okay.
Yes.
Interesting. So how do you, in terms of like the money conversation, how do you hold the money conversation with your boss? Like maybe you feel like maybe I need what do we call it, salary increments. How are you able to have those conversations?
Well, that's a very interesting question. we hold that money conversation in an open way.
Yeah.
In the sense that, first of all, as a person, there's some needs that you have.
Yeah.
Like if I was a family man, I would have kids and they would need school fees, for example. I would need to take care of my wife. I would need to do other things, maybe support the house. And so it first starts from that point. And then, so do your own analysis of how much money do you actually need to sustain yourself across the entire month. And then from that, look at the value that you can provide and see, okay, these are the needs that I have, and this is the value that I provide. So does this value match up to these needs? And so at that point, you will either say yes, that my value either supersedes the needs that I have, and so I can confidently ask for a certain figure. Or if the answer is no, and the value that you provide is less than the money you actually need, then start looking for ways to increase your skills and the value that you can now provide. And so at that time, now you can confidently go into someone's office and now ask for a specific amount, because you can directly showcase that this is the value that I have brought, this is the value that I can now bring to your company. Yes.
Interesting. That's a smart way to go about it.
Thank you.
So, on a daily basis, what can you say has to be done at Tripri to make sure the system is always running, like the app is running, the site is running? And also, which subscriptions do you guys have to pay on a monthly basis?
In terms of maintaining the system, it takes a whole village, I would say.
Yeah.
There's a lot that goes into place to ensure that our systems are always up, always available, are bug-free, and the user experience is phenomenal. So we have different teams that are focused on ensuring that the product continues to improve, and that even the new products that you're building are able to meet that same standard. For the subscriptions, I would say it's a long list, because the team now is quite large. I think it's almost double, almost triple at this point. But all these subscriptions are basically to be able to support the team, to support the product, ensure that even when maybe I'm asleep, the system is still up. Yes.
Okay. Interesting. So in terms of, do you think if this was a startup, you could be able to run it from your, let's say your garage, or maybe your studio bedroom, that is your bed sitter? I don't know if you have heard those stories of maybe I was running my startup from a bed sitter. Do you think you could do that?
For Triply, unless you're working remotely, but currently, to support a business like Triply, I don't think that's possible.
Yeah. As a software engineer, how can you say is the look or the feel you want to give users? That is, when I start using Triply, what look and feel do you want me to have?
So when you open the Triply applications that you have on both Android and iOS, or you open our website, triply.co, I want you to feel like you want to go to that place. I want you to look at a cottage in Nanyuki and envision yourself in that location through the photos that you have, through the very detailed description that you have of that property, and even through the very attractive price that you have. I want you to look at an event, I think like Uncle Waffle, for example, or Fitbit, the Fitbit concert.
Yeah.
I want you to look at such an event and envision yourself in that event and see yourself actually participate in that event through our interface.
Yeah.
Yes.
Interesting. So other than there is working at Triply, what other hobbies do you do? What do you do for fun? Do you have a side hustle, or is that allowed?
Of course, side hustles are a must. You have to sort of build up wealth in different ways. So part of it is now the projects that I was telling you about that we're working on with some of my friends from the different other places I've worked for. But in terms of hobbies, my biggest hobby right now is just traveling to different destinations and amateur photography. Yes.
So when did you start your hobby as a photographer?
So as a photographer, I started it way back. I think once I cleared high school, once I got a good smartphone, what I thought was good. But slowly by slowly, I still have my Google Photos drive is really huge. I now actually have to pay for more storage. But I started really getting in-depth quality photos probably last year. Yeah, last year is when now I sort of upped my game and maybe improved on the hardware that I was using. And at least now, if you look at my Instagram, they're a bit more quality photos.
Have you ever felt inspired to pursue entrepreneurship?
Yes, I'm actually currently on my other projects still an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
And so even here at Triply, I still look at the product both as an entrepreneur and as an engineer.
Yeah.
And that's, I believe, the best way for senior engineers and product people to look at products, because you're able to create real value. Because as an engineer, you can build a product, but if this product is not going to create value for the business, then the business might suffer and you might suffer as well. Yeah.
Interesting.
So it's always wise for you to always think ahead and think about what does the business actually need, to voice that out and ensure that the products that you're building as an engineer actually create a positive impact to the business. Yes.
Interesting. So what if you are given there is a choice to choose between, let's say, a job that gives you 1 million Kenya shillings per month and starting a startup that has a potential, this is not sure, it has a potential to be a 1 billion unicorn, what would you choose?
Can I choose both?
No, you have to choose one.
The reason is because you can always do both. Like, you can always have a day job and create your own products and sell them out. I think there's a lot of examples of people who are doing that, especially right now with the AI space. Guys are working for Google, but building products that they are selling even to Google for hundreds of millions of dollars. Yeah. So it's still possible to do both.
Interesting.
Yes.
So actually, talking about AI, how has been your integration of AI at Triply?
So at Triply, we aim to sort of spearhead new technologies, and we have actually adopted a lot of AI into our own systems.
Yeah.
So like right now, we are currently building a platform for tour operators to be able to fully manage the entire business, create their own quotations, do the invoicing, sort of a 360, book flights, book hotels, and do all of that through the Triply system. And through that product that you're building, it has incorporated a lot of services that use AI. So we're using AI for different things. I don't know if I can mention them right now before we launch the product, but we've heavily incorporated AI into our business here at Triply.
Okay. Which are the businesses that are similar to Triply that do you admire? That is, I know Airbnb is similar to Triply, Booking.com. Which do you feel like, this is the level Triply should get at?
It depends. It depends on what category, because Triply is sort of an in-between of various things. And in the Kenyan market, I would say we've actually dominated some of those international names that you've mentioned. And even the local competition that we found for, let's say, events or packages. Yeah, and so I would say we are sort of a leader of ourselves and we grow from ourselves. So we learn from our own mistakes. We're able to pick ourselves up and then become a new entity. Yes.
Career-wise, that is, let's say in the next like 5 years, where would you love to be?
So ideally after Tripoli, I'd love now to pursue my own full-time entrepreneurial ventures. So like the different projects that I'm working on, maybe on the side, I love for them to now grow into bigger businesses that, yeah, would have a greater impact now to the country, to the continent, and to the world.
So what piece of advice would you give to upcoming developers?
To upcoming developers, I would recommend that you take your time to learn the basics. Don't take shortcuts when you're learning the basics. Don't prompt ChatGPT to build your entire code base. Take your time to understand what you're building, to understand the fundamentals, and have some fun when you're doing that, because I believe that's the only time you will ever have to build out of curiosity and not necessity. Another piece of advice I would give is to build publicly. Once you've fully understood the basics, build your projects in a public space. Don't be afraid to post about your projects. Don't be afraid to take up challenges like the 100 days of code, where each day you build something different and showcase it in platforms like LinkedIn and Twitter. Yeah, so those two advices, learn the basics and build publicly.
Thank you guys for watching the show to this point. And if you liked it, follow and subscribe and hit the notification button. And also follow, that is Brian Nduhiu on LinkedIn and Instagram.